Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Anime Watch Club, a bi-weekly group discussion and review where the hosts of the WDYSA anime podcast nominate and vote on shows either we haven't seen or shows that hopefully lead to a great discussion. On today's episode, the nervous shy girls of the WDYSA anime podcast will be reviewing the 2018 OVA Kase-san and Morning Glories. Let's meet today's prideful bunch. First up, he refers to his morning wood as his morning glory. We have Jay. Jay, how's it going?
Why is it always a dick thing to me?
I can't help
Hey,
it.
sometimes Cat gets the dick things, Jay.
It's fair.
At least you get things.
What are you talking about? We do something for you, Pat.
Every time, Pat. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
You'll get your own intro later in this intro.
I can't wait.
Next up, a man who gets more giddy than Yui when browsing Magic the Gathering Commander decks. We have Kat. Kat, how's it going?
I am doing great. In fact, speaking of that, I've also spent like $100 on Commander precons the past 2 weeks.
I believe it.
I'd say you didn't tell me, but I definitely could have guessed that you did that. Our first moderator tonight, a man who claims couples should kiss and visit aquariums, so he should be giving the show no lower than a 9. We have Miles. Miles, how's it going?
It's going good. Unfortunately for aquariums, they are, I believe, number 3 on my date trope tier list, and while it's a high 3, they are beneath fireworks and stargazing. So, I don't know. We'll have to see.
Okay. And I promised I'd give Pat his introduction, so... And Pat.
There we go. Never gets old. Yeah, we're watching or rewatched this OVA called Kase-san and Morning Glories, or Asagao to Kase-san. And it was produced in aired in June of 2018 by Studio Zexus, which has done what else have they done? A bunch of other like school love dramas, it looks like, for the most part.
Yo, they did the gymnastics anime Backflip.
Oh God, everybody's favorite. Yeah, look, just looking at the cover art, it's like copy and paste for so many of these series. But yeah, so they this is an OVA produced based on a manga as well, themed around girls' love, romance, and school. It is of the shoujo demographic as well. So yeah, let's do our first impressions without spoiling too much. It is only a 58-minute OVA with a 8-minute credit sequence, so it's hard to talk about without spoiling, but try your best to do the first 10 minutes, let's say. Miles, why don't you start us off?
Sure. So, I wasn't sure what to expect when going into this. I had never heard of this before. But I was excited to watch it. I honestly would say it's not what I expected. And I can talk about why, because that's in the first 10 minutes. What I thought made this sort of unique was that the couple got together immediately. This was a story of them pretty much from their inception of dating to a random arbitrary point in their relationship, I suppose. But that was kind of neat. And so that was something that definitely intrigued me, along with the background art, which I thought was beautiful, and the character designs, which I thought were peppy and fun. So I would definitely recommend this. I think it's fun. Um, it's a very quick watch, so if you're at all into like romance series, I think it's just worth the watch if you are, because I think it's a little bit unique for romance shows from what I've seen, and low investment, and at the very least, you're watching a pretty show. So those are my thoughts.
Fair enough. Kat, what about you?
When I first started watching it, I thought that we had like skipped through a series because, like Miles said, you start seeing them be in a relationship immediately, and it's like, oh, hey, they start mentioning things that, it sounds like you should know. Maybe that's like lost in translation things, but it just felt a little jarring, just from my point of view. But maybe that's because I didn't go to Japanese school. So, but other than that, art was great. The voices, because I watched the dub, the voices were pretty good, which is high praise for me because I don't like dubbed. And like Miles said, the background art is great. So I would definitely recommend it because short watch, not losing that much time, and it's entertaining. So
Fair enough. Yeah, I agree that I thought the dub was really good too. From what I watched, I liked both of the main two girls voice actors a lot. Uh, made it a very easy watch. Jay, what about you? What do you think?
Yeah, I watched the sub of it and still enjoyed the voice acting quite a bit. The art of it was rather nice. I enjoyed the character designs of both of the main characters and of the like supporting characters as well. Although there aren't really that many supporting characters overall. There's really just like the one, honestly. I don't know. Yeah, it was pretty good. I would definitely recommend it if you like romance.
Fair enough. All right. And lastly, Pete, what about you?
Yeah, this is my rewatch. I watched this way back in like 2019, I want to say, and it's probably my favorite Yuri to date. On the rewatch, still very enjoyable. I forgot about how great the backgrounds were, and the music was pretty solid as well. Just like a very enjoyable, thorough watch, quick, easy, and yeah, I would recommend it for somebody who's just looking for like a quick watch of like a movie or a quick romance type of thing where you can get in and out really quick, and I feel like you get pretty much satisfied for what you're looking for.
Fair enough. I'm gonna disagree a little bit with Pete there. I felt pretty unsatisfied by the end of it, just because I wanted more, or I expect. But of course, going in, I should have expected not as much, or I should have expected what I got, is what I should say. I don't know. I like everybody else. I was pretty surprised that yeah, they started dating right away, but was kind of just hoping for more. And I get they're trying to sell me on the manga, trying to get me to go read it, but I was a little, I wasn't so interested by this that I wanted to like drop everything and start reading the manga. However, I would still recommend this. Pretty easy watch, very very pretty as well. The art was stunning, and I guess this is probably the best Yuri media I've consumed. So, that I guess that's not saying much comparing it to like Citrus and Blue Into You and a couple others, but it still is it was very very solid. So I would recommend this overall, especially because it's such a low investment. But yeah, we can talk about our differences of opinion on this later, I guess. So yeah, let's get into spoilers. It's I wouldn't really say it's spoiler heavy because like nothing happens in terms of like significance towards towards changing your perspective of the characters is what I would say. Uh like it's not no one dies. No one breaks up with someone. It's just you witness these two main characters go through a relationship. So obviously though go watch it before you listen to us talk about it now. But yeah, so let's see what is who has talking points. Miles, I heard you had some
I
stuff.
I guess well, I'm gonna challenge your thought there, but I would like to hear from everyone else because I guess to me there was actual tension whether this couple would stay together or not at the end for a few reasons. One, there's this scene where Kase is like walking away from her and like a sunset or something. And it was called like the Morning Glories, and there was only bloom in the morning for like a short period of time. And so like I thought that based on some of that, sort of like symbolism or whatever, or some of the imagery that we got, that maybe this would just be a story about two people who found each other in high school, fell in love for a bit, but then had to go their separate ways, like lots of people do after high school. Move to a different part of the country or whatever for college. So to me, as silly as the final scene was with her jumping onto the train without any clothes or anything to go spend a weekend in Tokyo, I liked it because I was actually invested. But did like I guess I want to know, did you guys feel that tension or was that just like a me thing? I don't know if anyone wants to
I
chime in.
I felt a bit of the tension. I actually felt so yeah, I felt the tension then, but I also want to bring up a little bit of tension that I felt beforehand as well because they also had the moment where like they were both misunderstanding each other, and it like they both I think total they had two times where they both had misunderstandings and they were both even though they talked it out, it just felt a little uh it felt like it was a sign of like uh of an issue with chemistry a little bit. Just because
Yeah.
yeah. Uh but definitely at the end I did think that it was gonna be like a after she left, it was going to be a I've got to let this go, and then like a monologue about about Kase-san's life, about, you know, just moving on without her.
Yeah, I thought the tension was there. I think they did a really good job at kind of explaining how elite Kase is at track and field. That to the, like they said that she participated in nationals all 3 years that she's been participating, and that I think anybody like in terms of like American style, like if you had like a D1 scholarship to go play football at Alabama, like you'd be stupid not to take that scholarship. And that's kind of like how I viewed the tension with Kase, because it's like she has a once in a lifetime opportunity to go to an elite sports college, and we know that like they love each other, but like high school relationships are high school relationships for a reason. And I guess I like the combination of like the tension that they brought between the two with like the circumstance that they were in, but also like this first love, especially in girl love, where I feel like your romantic interest total number of partners is limited. It's not like the same when you have like a school of like whatever 100 boys 100 girls type of thing, and you can ship other people, I guess. But like I really like that element in this, and I feel like we don't get that a lot in either Yaoi or Yuri. And yeah, I just really enjoyed that element, I guess.
Liked the tension aspect of it. I definitely I went into this pretty blind. I didn't know anything about like that there was more to this. Like as far as I was aware, this was just like a one-shot OVA type deal. I didn't even know that there was source material. And yeah, going in towards the end, I thought that for sure that oh yeah, this is a Yuri, and that means that it has to end pretty tragically or something like that. Like at least they have to be like broken up by the end and sad. And so it was like an actually like nice pleasant surprise that they kind of end up staying together at the end and going to Tokyo together. I enjoyed that quite a bit actually.
Yeah, a lot of Yuri have the mandatory at least midway point breakup part, and so I wonder if this was playing on that. I haven't like read the source material, but I wonder if they like set that up to happen and then sort of subverted the expectations for people who are more into Yuri manga, you know.
I know. I guess I'm the only one. I didn't feel any tension throughout. I was like so like I get I agree with what you guys are saying is that they did portray the stress of a first relationship, an unorthodox one, so to speak. Like I think they did a really good job portraying that, and the way people might feel about that. But I didn't ever really feel like their relationship was threatened. Like they to me seemed like they were, you know, like perfectly glued together. They seemed like
Yeah,
that's
I agree with that, I guess, but like it doesn't matter how glued together you are if someone moves across the country is my point, I guess.
yeah,
Especially
you
like
know.
high school to college, like
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
tough
it's a
one.
tale. It's a tale as old as time.
There's a
You
Blink
know,
182 song about it. Uh,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know turkey drop. I know, but like still, it's
Turkey,
it.
yeah. Hey,
I know. Is that
after
yeah?
Thanksgiving break, you
that's
break
what it's
up with
Yeah, it's
called.
you break
Yeah,
yeah.
up with someone before Thanksgiving break on your first semester.
that
That's
way
the
I've
you can
never
bring
done that.
turkey drop.
that way you can bring your new boyfriend home.
Exactly. Yeah, so
I
that's what
would
we called it in
never.
the Northeast, at least. I don't know. But either way, I don't know. I get what I do agree that there's that tension, but to me, I guess just because I was consuming a fictional piece of media that was 58 minutes long, I didn't expect them to ever break up beyond like what Miles, I believe Miles said, where it's like oh, we broke up for a second, but then we were back together. Like after we talk out this misunderstanding of, you know, oh, I saw you naked and I ran away because I was afraid or something.
I
You know,
really liked that part.
Me
I
I
thought
too.
do.
because
I
like
did too. It's a bit
they,
clear, but you know.
yeah, no, I'm just going off of that because I
Mm.
liked it. I know Jay has a point, but I'm taking over because I'm a jerk. Um, but I really liked how they handled that because to me it had the actual anxiety of when like you're first dating someone and there's like a misunderstanding because you definitely have that anxiety, but usually you do what they did and like be a little nervous and then talk about it and then figure out what's going on as opposed to like what a lot of rom-coms do where it's like you just bury it for 7 episodes or whatever, or like it causes some sort of like thing. I just liked how there was a misunderstanding and like I just like she was like I like you're too hot for me. I feel so flubby and it's just like mood girl. Like for sure. Jay, what did you want to talk about?
Yeah, so normally I find that in like a romance or, just any series in general, like if it doesn't have like if it's just kind of focused on main characters and the side cast doesn't get a ton of exploration, that's usually a downside for me. But in this, it kind of felt like less was more. Like the few people that we did see, it felt like, they weren't explored or anything like that, but the actions that they did take kind of characterized them quite well. Like especially Michikawa, the pretty much the only real supporting character that has an actual name, I'm pretty sure. Like,
Coach.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure. Yeah, Senpai. I'm sure that if we got like, if we had a series, like she would be explored more, and like her feelings of jealousy towards Kaze and but Yamada's relationship, like how it was kind of taking away from her and Yamada's friendship. But I was just kind of curious as to how you guys felt about the fact that we kind of were just spending most of our time with the main couple here, not so much side characters.
Oh, I liked their the two of them together. They were, the way that you could see how they would work together in like in a couple. They didn't feel like two people that wouldn't make sense being together. I guess I would have wanted more, again, more time. I would have wanted more to see how that relationship either would work or would have developed to that point. We get a little bit of a flashback, I believe, right at the beginning when they first kiss, or was that even the same? I don't think it was the same scene as at the bus stop, right? That was a different kiss or moment, right?
Yep.
Yes.
It was okay. All right, that's why I first interpreted it. But so I guess that's where other than like, how did they? To me, they didn't escape the shy girl tomboy, which you could do that with a straight couple too, the jock and the shy girl. Like they didn't escape that initial, like, what would you call it? I guess trope, I guess. But like, and I wanted more. That's the thing. I wanted to see more of how they would work together long term rather than what we got, which was pretty standard. Like we didn't explore what they liked about each other as much as I would have liked, I guess. What did you have though, Pete?
No, I think it's more of like I did like the main couple itself, but I like the situations that they put themselves in order to create like this great story, because I feel like a lot of times in like anime romance, especially in high school, when people first start going out, we get the walk home from school episode, it's raining, let's share an umbrella type of thing.
Banger episode.
Yeah,
by the
no,
way.
for sure.
Every time.
No, I do like that. Don't get me wrong. It's like it's a trope, but it works. Like there's a reason why it's put into it. I really like how it started out with like kind of like Kase thinking that she's going over to Yamada's house to smash. Like I
Yeah,
like that
that was
situation.
great.
That was funny. Like that type of misunderstanding, I feel like, is like a thing for like a 17-year-old, and you have this pure-hearted Yamada and Kase kind of. I'm gonna make I guess she's a little more out there, a little more bold when it comes to the relationship, because it seems like she's always the one making the move.
Yeah.
So like that situation was just like I think a great way to start their relationship, but then still have like the other situations where it still felt like they cared for each other, with like them eating lunch on the school rooftop, and that's kind of how we learned how Kase fell in love with Yamada, like her eating lunch on the rooftop or whatever, and gazing over and seeing Yamada just take care of the garden, and she liked that about her. But then we have like also the aquarium, and then we had the banger scenes like that. And I just felt like it did a good job of creating these scenarios to make me invested in them, where I feel like other romances kind of play the cliche tropes card too much, where I don't get as invested in it. Where something like, I know Miles is watching it now, like Horimiya, I like the situations that they put themselves in Horimiya, which makes me gravitate to that couple more than, say, I don't know, insert crappy rom-com. More than lovers, or less than lovers, but more than a married couple or something like that, where it's just like the tropes are there, the cliches are there, and they just play that card, and that's what I liked about this movie.
So Jay, to answer your question, I don't really mind the lack of side characters in this. I think similar to what like Pat was saying, like if anything, I would want a little more time with our main couple. I think that because we're in like such a short period of time, like I think if the show was 12 episodes long and it didn't focus on any side characters, I probably would have felt the pain, but because it's about the equivalent of 3 episodes, I think that it's fine to not have that side character focus. I think side character focuses are good because like it can help take pressure off a main couple to be interesting all the time, I guess. Like you can like shift your focus to something else, or once the main character's arc is resolved, you can switch to the B couple and like what they're going through. But because this is so complete, and like sort of like short, um, I think that it works. I do agree with Pat. I wish we had a little more. I really liked what we got. It was enough for me to make like an analogy. This feels like watching someone speed run Mario 64. Like, yeah, it's like all the major hits are there, and it's impressive, and I liked it, but it's not the entirety of Mario 64. To say, but it's not again like watching someone speedrun Ocarina of Time, where you're like, this isn't even the same game. So I don't know if that analogy makes any sense, but it's what I'm going with.
We did get bridge skip in this, didn't we? Or
We got
Lakitu skip, whatever
yeah,
it was.
yeah, we hit Lakitu skip on this for sure, but we did fumble 8 red coins and TikTok clock. So Pete, you had another point you wanted to make, so I'm gonna pitch it back to you.
Did I?
Yeah, per anime recording chat, you said I was going to say something but forgot. I assumed that meant forgot to say it, or did you mean forget what?
I just went on like this rant, and I forgot that Jay asked about the supporting characters.
No, that's the question. To answer this question,
I guess it was like I was so focused on the main couple and the scenarios that they were putting themselves into that I didn't care if there was
that in and
one
of itself is an answer.
Yeah,
if there was one side character. Yeah,
I think the format of it also helps a lot. Like Miles said, like it was the equivalent of 3 episodes or so. If it was a 12 episode series, yeah, it might have made a difference, but it's not, so it doesn't.
mm-hmm.
Like for side characters, I actually kind of wish they had maybe not a full like 24 minute like 12 episode series, but more like a 12-minute 12 episode series where basically I wanted to see like because on the plane they had Yamada. She was basically having to deal with the guys on the plane when they were riding over to Anakawa, I think.
Okinawa.
Okinawa. Yeah. Basically like she was starting to have like this uh mental issue, and it seemed like it was coming from the fact that she was around like all the other boys on the plane. I would like to see like where that stems from, and how I'm assuming this here, like where how Mikawa was able to help with that, or even Kase. Well, we saw how Kase fixed it in that situation, but like maybe seeing how Kase helped in an earlier situation type of thing. I'd like to see a little bit more of their fleshing out, but overall, I think it was a complete story, and I enjoyed it that way.
Yeah, I agree with that, honestly. I think that, like, at first, whenever I was finished watching, I was kind of like, man, I don't really know what they liked about each other. But then I realized, like, they kind of show you more or less. Like, Yamada is just like a very sweet and kind, caring person who thinks a lot about Kase, and Kase is the fucking Wizard of Oz. Like when she did the like body mist move where like she fucking like traced all up the arm with her mouth and up to the neck, I was like, Jesus Christ, your game is impeccable for your age.
Yeah, Yamada didn't even know what sex was, and Kase was like, "Here's a full body massage with my mouth." Like,
Yeah.
um,
Yamada's
That's what
the
happened.
shack
That's the
being like,
scene.
I'm sorry, I wasn't familiar with your game.
yeah, it's yeah. I honestly, that's what I like. Not to say that I hate your idea, Kat, but part of what I liked about this is that I think part of the way things fill out their 12 episodes is doing backstory and stuff. But sometimes I like where we can just sort of see like, okay, Yamada is uncomfortable in these loud situations with these like brash people around them, but then we see that Kase comes up and it makes her more comfortable, and like we can like just being able to like piece that together without a backstory is cool. And I bet there's like a way to do a backstory right, but I'm so used to like Demon Slayer where they just like give us the backstory to let us know why we should be sad when this person dies. And like
You're
I feel like
triggering me.
anime does that like a lot, where it hits us with the backstory like exactly when we're supposed to care about the backstory, and that isn't like wrong to do, but I do like being able to try to put pieces together by myself. And so I guess applaud the show for letting me figure out why I think these two people like each other, if that
Show
makes sense.
don't tell.
Yeah, show don't tell, which is like really good. But then also sometimes I see people get really mad at authors who do that because they don't like the conclusion, and so I don't blame authors for telling, because frankly some people just need to be told stuff.
Yeah.
And also sometimes like anyone needs to be told stuff. Like I don't know, it's good to understand why. I would fear that it would be like it would show her coming to like comfort her, and then it would cut to some scene where she was like on a plane when she was 6 and a bunch of people were mean to her, and then she thinks to herself, I'll never find a girl who will comfort me when I'm in a plane full of people being rowdy. And then it cuts back and she's like, hey, I'm
That's
here to comfort you. I know that's
not
not
what
what
I'm
I
asking.
know that's not what you're asking for, but in my head that's how it would be executed, if that makes sense.
So you
Like
wouldn't be a good director. Is what I'm
correct,
hearing.
exactly. I exactly. Uh,
I got another talking point.
let's hear it.
Okay, cool. So outside of the tags being girls love and romance, I found that this show was hilarious, especially with the visual gags that they used. I thought how they did a really good job of portraying like being frustrated or overwhelmed, but like sometimes in like a funny way or embarrassed, was really goofy. It reminded me a lot of the currently, I guess, just finished Loving Yamada. Funny enough that this is also Yamada, but like how they use their visual like faces of comedic relief to like kind of soothe some of the moments. Wanted to get your guys' thoughts on how they imply like this style of like story, I guess, visual gags with the story itself, because I thought that was like the main focal point for the comedy.
Yeah, I really liked Yamada having the sprout on her head whenever she was being like a noob, basically. To use the noob in a funny context, but like whenever there were she was just naive or I don't know, just being silly. It was really fun seeing that little sprout, which fit her character, fit her interests, whatever.
Did you see at the
Uh,
end that she had 3 sprouts?
Yeah.
well, she got multiple throughout at different
Yeah.
times, right? Yeah. There were times where I was like, why did they stop showing it? But then, of course, it's just like, okay, the gag's it. Like, there were a couple times where I was just like, oh, why doesn't she have it on her head right now? But again, that's not a complaint. That's more just like I was trying to look for something, like a consistency between what they were doing with it. And I agree that visual gags were very funny. I like seeing Kase get flustered as well, and not, I mean, Rizlord for sure, but not always ready for
Yeah.
what Yamada was gonna say. Like not always on her game, so to speak. I think that was nice to see too, because it's not just the typical cool, well, in this case, cool girl. Like knows everything. Like this is her first real relationship too, as far as the show tells us, I believe. I really liked that aspect of it too.
Yeah, not much more to add, but like I definitely agree with it. I think it helps add personality to them as a couple, and I think that's just one of the benefits of animation in general, as opposed to like live action, where if you want someone to grow plants from their head, you can do that, and it's not weird or unexpected, right? Like I don't know, it's so interesting because if you did that gag in like live action, I think everyone would be like, what the fuck? Like, why did you CGI some clovers on her head? But like in anime, we're suspending our disbelief for that stuff for whatever reason. I don't know. It's a neat thing about what we choose to watch.
I have another talking point. I wasn't sure.
I
Yeah, hit us with them.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I want to talk about how we view either Yuri or yaoi romances compared to traditional romances. I'll put it in a sense, I guess, because I think most mainstream romances that we get 95% of the time is a traditional boy girl romance. Are there things that you like a lot more about Yuri or yaoi than like a standard romance, or is there something that you like from other romances that you wish that they did in either this story or Yuri and yaoi in general?
For Yuri and Yaoi, they show a lot more of the discovery that they're learning to love, that they're actually learning to love, I guess is a good way of putting it. Versus like in, Nisekoi, where I guess it's more or less of like this is they view it more seriously in more Yuri and Yaoi, uh, rather than just a standard like uh rom com or what's it called harem, things like that, where like they're throwing like the tropes at the wall, and it does, and it's more of a joking, oh, we're learning how to love, we're learning how to do all the things that uh make us feel, love. But in Yuri and Yaoi, uh it's a lot more serious because it's not a traditional relationship. But even if it's not a traditional relationship, it's still a relationship that is it's still a relationship that everybody has to go through. Like everybody has to learn how to love the person that they're trying to be with for the rest of their life. You know what I mean? Like, and that shouldn't be seen as a joke in a lot of rom coms, in my opinion.
I don't know. This one didn't feel very different to me. I don't know how you guys felt, but to me, this could have been Kase could have been a guy, and it wouldn't have been very different of a show to me because and I guess that's the case with a lot of romances that we watch in anime too. That and it goes both ways, right? Where you could turn, um, I don't know, just Golden Time. I'm just coming up with one like turn Golden Time into a yaoi or a yuri, and does it change that much? Like not really. I guess the scenarios maybe change sometimes, but that's because there's more opportunity for those scenarios to pop up. Like in this one, it's just like we've talked about earlier. Tomboy is getting ready to go for a really cool opportunity, getting ready to move away to college. But the other one, shy, quiet, reserved, is not ready to. Like, where did the fact that it was girls' love, or if it was a yaoi, like where would that change things? I guess is my counter question to your initial question. Because like, I didn't feel like it was that different to me. Uh, I feel like you could have substituted anything in for this one, and it would have been the same.
I kind of get what you're saying. I guess for me, in the sense that maybe like I guess if we do like mainstream recent, a lot of them are like shonen based romances where it's the chase more than like the prize at the end of the tunnel type of thing. Where this is an established relationship, and I just felt like, especially in this one in particular, the relationship to me felt more serious, I guess, in a sense, where I think a lot of times in romances we see like boy likes girl, girl likes boy, they date, and then they kind of like figure each other out along that sense. And this one, because of their relationship, I guess to me it just felt like they know that the situation that they're in is not traditional compared to the norm, I guess, and put in that sense. And because of that, like their love is elevated. And I like that sense of like the two main leads having a greater sense of caring for their partner, I guess is to put it that way. And I think I do see that a lot more in um Yaoi and Yuri than a
That's
traditional
interesting.
romance.
Okay. So I don't have a lot of experience with yaoi. The only yaoi I've seen is Your Ice. Funnily enough, I guess. Um, But I've read a good amount of Yuri, and there's usually, like, not all the time, but I find usually there's like a pretty big, and this makes a lot of sense. And I think Kat mentioned this. There's like usually a lot of like discovery theming in there, and so like the relationships don't start off because usually one of the characters is discovering their identity. Um, and you know, so to me this felt unique, and it's not like I've read every Yuri ever. So this is just from like the 10 or so that I've read, but like, or watched. But it this felt unique just for romance in general for me, because while Yuri's that I've watched have the relationship forming phase for maybe a different reason than like the straight rom-coms or straight romances, um, that phase still exists, and in this they just sort of skipped it. What I'll say is, uh, other romances I've seen where they just skipped that, like Shikamori's Not Just a Cutie, right? That came out last year, where they just started dating, but honestly didn't really feel like they were dating
Yep.
until maybe the end. Like, this was part of the reason that I liked it so much, is because it really just felt like they were dating the whole time. And but I guess like a straight one where it feels like that to me is I'm in the middle of watching Horimiya, right? And so they do have the how they got together, but that's only a couple of episodes, and they get together pretty quickly, and then it just sort of feels like they're dating and they do dating things. So I don't, all this to say, I don't know.
I was gonna say, because like what you just described was like, you're right. So like they do start dating right away. It is not your standard romance in that sense, but like where does let's say it this way, because it's fine, like where does the gay come in?
Where's the fact that it's a gay relationship?
Where does the non, like what we've talked about with like, and like conforming versus non-conforming, or
Yeah, well, so
like normal versus
yeah.
not a normal, and that's again all quotation marks, like where does that come in,
Well,
like
yeah,
where does that change in this story compared to like other Yuris or Yaois or anything that we've watched before?
So something that I can't answer because I'm a cishet dude, but that I think is what I would guess is that a lot of the parts the gay come in could possibly be how they interact with each other, how they the activities they do. Just so, like, for example, here's an instance: she can, like, her telling her mom that she has like a friend over or something, and then like the mom isn't like concerned about that, is something that is probably like in a heteronormative world is not something that would happen to like a straight couple. Their interactions could be different. I think that, and I'm super guilty of this, but I don't think for something to be like a gay story, it has to include either like some sort of combating against society. Like, I don't
Yep.
think that's necessary. Like, I don't think you have to deal with like homophobia or people's expectations for it to be that. And I also don't think it necessarily needs to have like that discovery phase that I said was like very popular. I think those are things that are very often done. And I think that makes a ton of sense, right? Because gay couples have to deal with all of that at some point, I imagine. But to compare this to, have you ever seen Schitt's Creek?
Yes.
Yeah, love that
Okay,
show.
me too.
Great show.
So David and what's his husband's name? Michael? David and the guy David marries. Schitt's Creek was written intentionally to be in a world where like homophobia doesn't exist, because they just wanted a world where
It's also like Community where racism doesn't exist. I'm serious. I'm dead serious.
well, you can excuse racism.
No, Community. Sorry, I meant Parks and Rec.
Okay.
Parks and
Yes.
Rec.
Yeah. That
Sorry,
makes
there's
a lot more
literally a Nazi in Community. That's why that's confusing.
I was like, I mean, I love Community, but like
Parks and Rec,
Pierce's whole
Community,
bit
it's the
is
same thing. It's the
Same premise.
We are
um,
not a Western sitcom podcast,
mhm,
guys.
mhm.
I don't
Yeah.
have to know these things.
So I guess like my main point, Pat, is that like I agree that I don't necessarily see something that screams to me like this is where the gay comes in, but also I'm not a gay woman, and so I would suspect that the gays coming in parts that a gay woman would understand, and uh, I wouldn't. That would be my
And,
guess.
and I agree too. Like the discovery phase thing isn't super important. I liked the fact that they they had their moments where they were getting intimate, and there was no, is this right? Is this what I should be doing? Blah 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 blah. There was no questioning about it. They felt like they were doing the right thing, or doing the right thing. Whatever.
They were
You know what I mean?
comfortable with their
Right.
choices.
They
They
were
weren't
comfortable.
yeah.
Right. And there was no coercion, there was no anything along those lines really. It was just like your standard. But of course, there's usually that too in straight situations too, or there can be, right? Like pressuring or wanting to do what others are encouraging you to do, especially someone you care about. So I guess that's where, for me, I was just trying to see maybe the relevance beyond, and of course, representation is a whole different conversation. But like, what was the I guess again, just to tie it back into Pete's question, like I don't really see how that it changes romance stories for me if it doesn't somehow impact what they're going through, you know? Like, because I did like your point too. I forgot to bring this up about the on the phone, the friend, mom's like, "Oh, you got a friend over, no big deal," like hangs up, or is like, "Oh, well, did you greet them? Like, did you give them tea, whatever?" Rather than being, like you said, panicked if it was a guy or a girl uh situation. I just wonder the like maybe they could have like acknowledged that more, but of course, maybe they didn't because it was better that way. I don't know. I guess that's my whole way of saying I don't know either, or two, just like you did a few minutes ago, but.
Anybody else know or not know?
Well, I think I could have worded it differently because I think we've all seen enough anime or read enough manga to know like the difference between like a shonen romance compared to a shoujo romance, a middle school romance compared to a high school romance. When we have so like, and I kind of doing this with like the yaoi yuri versus non yaoi yuri, where I feel like when I'm watching a yaoi or a yuri, when it's not like, because I think there are like Yuri's like citrus is there for fan service, like it's not there for a compelling story. But I feel like a lot of times Yuri and Yaui's like the emotional connection between the partners are so much more than a traditional romance. Like last year's Sasaki to Miyano, I thought was just like a fantastic romance. How they handled like them coming together and exploring their relationship isn't necessarily seen as much in a like non yaoi yuri romance, and that's kind of like what I was getting at with like when they put this label on it. Is there something that you like more? Because I know a lot of people say shonen romances are known for long running. It's the chase, not the end type of thing. Like some people like that more than a story like I'd say in a lot of shoujos, for example. The relationship is answered quickly, and then it's the stuff afterwards that is like the main storyline. So something along like those lines, I guess, is kind of where I'm trying to get my question in.
Yeah, I think that one point I kind of wanted to raise about what Pat had said was I don't necessarily disagree with you, Pat. I don't really think that it affects the story too much in this particular case. But as for like the point of representation, I think that representation matters a bit when it comes to the theming of it because what they're trying to represent kind of informs who the audience is, and thus the tropes and stuff cater to things that that particular audience wants to see. Thus, the difference between like a shonen and a shoujo romance, etc. So, like, I think that it being like a yuri, like being primarily written for women who love women, like that kind of trope, like it affects what kind of like things you see, like tropes inside the story and stuff like that.
Thanks, Jay. That was really well thought out. I
No
think.
worries.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
agree. I agree. Well, that's the other thing. It's like representation, of course, matters and is super relevant, especially in the context of where the representation is existing. You know, like you said it really well. What else did I say? Yeah. All right. Let's get into our final thoughts and our scores as well. Miles, why don't you start us off? What have you got?
Yeah, I really liked this. I think it suffers a little bit from how short it is, but it does uh
Overall,
almost
sorry.
um but it does about as much as it can with the time it's given. Like, I think that uh it's very well put together. I just sort of wish it was like a little bit longer. And I loved our two main characters. The art is beautiful. I thought it was a good story. I liked the ending. I'm gonna give this an 8 out of 10, despite the aquarium. Sorry, Pete.
Ooh.
Well, now we know the precedent has been set. You know.
They kissed like 3 times, Miles. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, but they did it too early, so then I got used to it.
Ah.
Yeah, there you go.
He's
Sorry,
You
still,
said
still a
8, correct?
he's still a shoujo romance guy at heart.
This is technically a shoujo romance.
Oh, for sure.
Or shonen romance. Sorry, that's what I
Oh.
meant.
Oh.
I keep messing up with stuff like that.
Yeah, go watch your Hori Mia, you poser.
Yeah.
Us shoujo stands are
You're
staying together.
my dress up darling.
Oh, no, that's too long. They take too long to do. I can't believe that they did not have sex in that hotel room. Unbelievable.
They're saving
But,
it for marriage.
They're
I would
flawed, I guess. Yeah.
kill myself.
I still need to catch up on that.
Kat, go ahead. What's your final thoughts and score?
My final thoughts is that like it was a definitely enjoyable OVA. But I think personally it suffers a little bit from being too short. Maybe even like 30 more minutes or an hour might have helped it, like, flesh out the characters a little bit more, have a little bit more go a little bit deeper within it. But uh then again, it's also about like trying to sell the manga, and maybe they didn't want to spoil too much. And I can understand that. Not necessarily like it though, but the but just from the show itself, I really really enjoyed it. I love the chemistry. I loved background art. I love the sound design. I didn't even touch on that. Sound design did get really good uh, near to the end, uh, and it was overall it was a great anime for what they had. And uh, I think I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10 as well.
8 out of 10. Alrighty. Jay, what about you?
Yeah, I also really enjoyed this. I would have been so I'll start off with what I thought could have been done better, just to get out of the way because it's not a lot. I would have enjoyed a little bit more time with like a couple of the side characters. Like it would have been cool for Kaze on to have like a friend or something like that, because it just seems kind of weird, like to have somebody whose like whole high school uh circle is like their partner even when they're on like a team and stuff like that, like even just seeing somebody in like the background and talking to them with like a distinct design would be cool. But and then like the OST, I thought that the music just wasn't really doing much for me. Like they didn't do anything with it practically, in my opinion. The sound design, I do agree with Kat, was really well done. I especially liked the scene where like she was talking on the phone with Mishikawa and like they were underwater. I thought that the sound design there was good, as well as just that scene in general was really well done. Um, I think that this is something where if you just like romance in general and you're not like a weird homophobe, then you should peep this because it's only an hour long. Like it's not asking for much of your time, and it's pretty well done. I think that this is like the most 8 out of 10 show that we've ever watched, probably. So I'm gonna go ahead and give this an 8 out of 10 as
I
well.
was gonna ask at the end if this competes with The Girl Who Leapt Through Time for the most 8 out of 10 thing.
I mean, that's my staple for an 8, so.
For me personally,
Mhm.
since I've been here, it's the most 8 out of 10. Then
I can
Yeah.
definitely agree with that. Well, we'll see what the other two give it.
I see where that perspective is coming from for sure. But Pete, what about you?
Yeah, like I said before in the beginning, this is my favorite Yuri to date. I love how wholesome it is. I really enjoyed like the background and the characters. They do a lot of things well at the time that they're given. It reminds me a lot of a show called Suri Zuri Children, which is a short form rom com, which I don't think it's a lot of like
They could have been a
love.
couple in Suri Zuri
They
Children
could
for
have,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
But like I think like the reason why Suri Zuri Children isn't like talked about as much as other romances is because it's short form, even though I think with the time that they are allocated, the 12 minutes per episode, they do a fantastic job. And that's how I felt with this. If we're only getting 58 minutes, give me 58 minutes of just like what I'm looking for in a romance like this. And that's what I got. Really love it. I'm gonna give it a 9. I'm also gonna give 2 recommendations if you are a fan of Kase-san. They're mangas. It's called How to a Relationship and Whisper Me a Love Song. Whisper Me a Love Song is actually getting an anime in 2024. Great Yuris that I would definitely recommend to people who like Kase-san and Morning Glories. So I'm giving it a 9.
All right. And yeah, I don't really have too much more to add on. I do agree that I don't know, if I gave this an 8, it wouldn't like offend me or bother me to do so. But I think the fact that it is not as long as I want it to be, and that they don't explore some of the other characters as much, like what Jay was talking about, limits me a lot here. I think to me this would be like a 7.5, the epitome of. But so because of that, I'm gonna give this a 7 overall. I really liked the art in this, and I liked the music, but I agree with Jay that it didn't add much. It's just that it was pleasant when it was there, I guess is the good way to, or is the way I viewed it at least. So yeah, I'd say 7 just because I wanted more, and I think we just talked about this a few weeks ago where it's like it wasn't bad. 7's not a bad thing in any way. It's just I wanted so much more than what it gave me in the 58 minutes. But in the 58 minutes it did a really good job. So that hour, I don't know. We've got some tough math coming into this with 3/8, a 9, and a 7. I'm gonna do some little mental math here, doing some mental gymnastics, and I think we have an 8.0 average score. Is that correct, Miles? Can you tell me if the
Yeah.
Excel sheet poops that out for you?
So the spreadsheet is actually having a hard time calculating this math. Yep, 8 out of 10.
Wow. Okay. Thank goodness we have the spreadsheet to double check our math. The average score on Mal for this is a 7.71, so we got about as close as we could have to that score with the number of people we had. Although I guess could have gotten almost exactly that with 5 people. But yeah, that wraps up our discussion to Kase-san and the Morning Glories. So Miles, our next meeting is on July 10th. What are we watching for that July 10th episode?
So we got Has Week.
Yeah.
Past week.
So
What is Has Week for those that don't know what Has Week is?
Has
If
Week
you-
is a week where we all nominated shows we thought Has would like, and so we can bully him to come back and be our friend again. Even though we talked to Has plenty, but just to get it back on the pod.
Yeah.
So in third place we have a tie between Mayo Chiki and Abenobashi. In second place, we have Fruits of Grisai. And then in first place, we got Golden Boy.
Back-to-back dubs for Pete. Let's go.
Yeah.
That's like 3 of 4 too. Let's go.
I would like to thank Kat for randomly rolling Golden Boy
Cat,
instead of
cat,
Fruits,
cat,
so that
cat.
we get to watch Pete's show instead of mine. Thanks, pal.
Well, Versailles, I was not particularly.
It's your own fault
Excited
for
about it?
telling him he was the decider.
He said he liked being the decider, and then took 20 minutes and then rolled dice. Anyways,
rolling dice all podcast. What do you mean?
we will be watching Golden Boy, which Trent sent me a long post comparing to Seinfeld, so I'm interested to see how that goes. Okay.
Yeah, so now that's what we're watching for that July 10th, and then the July 24th, if I can do math, yes I can. July 24th is what our we'll be nominating shows for this time around. So what are you nominating, Miles?
Yeah. So I just want to check something really quick. It'll be like 1 second. I'll do it. Da-ba-da.
Kat, what are you nominating?
It's literally 1 second. Okay, it's
Oh,
done.
is it? Okay.
Yeah, like
Okay, there we go.
unironically, 1 second. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So
I thought you were doing the bit where
I have
you're not ready yet.
I have a frenemy in the Discord. His name is Socks. He said this week, "You guys fucking suck. How come you never nominate any good shows? Fuck you." So I'm going to
He did say
nominate Kids
that.
on the Slope. So fuck you, Socks.
honoring the time-honored Miles tradition of stealing a J nomination and probably winning with it.
Yep.
Oh, yes.
All right, Kat, what about you? What are you nominating?
So, in the essence of June and Pride Month, even though we're moving on to July, I wanted
Yes.
to maybe have something that
Slowpoke.
I know that people like, and is in honor of Pride Month. I'm gonna nominate Given.
Given. Alrighty. Cool.
Probably because I've never seen it, but yeah.
Cool. Jay, what about you?
So I had two choices here on things I wanted to nominate. And I think I'm gonna go with the more violent choice. I'm gonna nominate Megalobox 2 Nomad.
Nice.
Ooh, has week.
Ooh, yeah, that's week. That's week 2. I like that. That'll be fun. That's good too, because yeah, we watched season 1 like 6
And
months ago at this point.
Yeah, season 2's supposed to be a banger too. So it's like half a point higher on Mal, which is a lot even for a sequel.
Agreed.
Wow. Pete, what about you?
I'm gonna use this joke every time I nominate it. You guys are acting a little sus, so I'm going to nominate the Among Us anime,
Click.
Astra: Lost in Space.
Oh yeah.
I keep thinking this joke leads into Nagatoro
I keep thinking Danganronpa.
or something too. Yeah, one of those.
Can one of us do Danganronpa, please? I'll
No.
vote for it.
I
Okay.
got you, Miles.
That's
All right.
anti-Has Week.
Has 100%ed the first 2 games. Don't say it's anti-Has.
I mean,
Has
he
loved
did it out of
Danganronpa.
spite.
No, he loved it.
Yeah. So, don't worry, I got you covered there, Miles. I will nominate The Tunnel to Summer, The Exit to Goodbyes, the same movie that I've been trying to get to win for a while now. I think it'd be really easy and fun to watch. So yeah, assuming we can find it somewhere. But
Okay, we have Haz's initial impressions, and he said the worst show won. So congrats, everyone.
He only has himself to blame.
Yeah, he could have changed it by voting for Fruits 1 point higher.
Exactly.
too bad he didn't, because I would have loved to have watched that show from what I've
I
heard so
I
far.
actually really wanted to watch the Mayo Chiki.
Then why didn't you vote for Mayo Chiki first?
Because I nominated it.
Oh.
I mean, what do you think? What do you think? Do you want me to be a Trump? What?
Yeah. Well, you can vote for yourself in American elections, but hey, that's irrelevant right now. Let's move on now. Yeah, let's watch club for the week. Yeah. Pete, take it away, please.
Yes, if you have made this far and you want to support us, the best way to do so, like, comment, subscribe, leave a review on whatever platform you are watching and or listening to us on. Next week is the Spring Review. It'll be 45 minutes of probably me and Jay talking about Vinland Saga Season 2 and giving it a 10, and then everything else in between. So look forward to that. Otherwise, if you are here for Watch Club in 2 weeks, we will see you for Golden Boy. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.